Hello, Tiffany, and welcome to the Victim to Victor podcast. It's so lovely to have you on. How do you feel today?
I feel good. I mean, tomorrow's my birthday, so I'm like on the birthday vibes, I'm getting all excited to spend my last year of my 30s with some friends and family. And yeah, I'm
Oh,
gonna be 40 next year. Like that's old, but no offense,
no.
40.
I know. Hello. Welcome to the 40s club. But you look amazing, right? You're
Well, thank
glowing.
you. Well,
Wow.
camera. I think I turned the filter on, so it
Is
took
it?
all the wrinkles.
Well, I was thinking because the sun's actually going down here in the UK, so it's like the opposite. Whereas you've actually got the blinds down. Why is that? Is it because it's dead?
Yeah. Well, so it's 104 degrees here today. How about that? That's more bright, right?
Wow.
So I'm trying to
Okay.
keep my house was built in 1920, and so
Oh,
it's not as it doesn't hold the heat in as well and the air. So
yeah.
where my office is, where I'm sitting right now, is an addition to the house, and it doesn't have proper ventilation. Like there's not enough
Right.
vents. So I
Okay.
keep everything closed so that 105 or 104-degree sun doesn't beat down on my office.
Right. Absolutely. And that's why you can look so glamorous without any sweat dripping off you.
Yes, but I did open another blind, so hopefully you can see me a little better. So
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. So, if those for those of you who don't know Tiffany yet, she is actually the hostess of Speak Loud podcast, which I was actually a guest on a couple of weeks ago, and her show is mainly based upon interviewing survivors of abuse and survivors of all sorts, and for them to have a port to come and share their story with the world and to inspire people. And I just think it's some amazing work that you're doing out there, Tiffany, so well done on your success on that so far. And again, I will add a link in my description to your podcast so people can go check you out. But Tiffany's story actually does start from when she was a young child herself, because you know that every successful person and every ambitious person tends to have a bit of a backstory. And this is something which I'm eager to find out more about, Tiffany, because she's just full of energy, full of beans, and I know there's something that's made her into this amazing woman who she is today. And that's why I invited her on my show. And I'm looking forward to finding out more about you, because my show is Victim to Victor. It's all about people who have overcome their own adversities and traumas to become victors of their lives, just like you. So I hope that, your story will inspire my listeners, to a level where they can also become victors of their lives.
yes, absolutely. It's funny when you were on my show, I talked about this victim to victor
Mm,
slogan that you have here because I kind of share the same sentiment. When I go out and I do public speaking, I'm always like, you can be a victim of your circumstance or victorious of it. And
yeah.
that's a hard path to go down, to be victorious of it. It's a lot easier to fall into that victimhood and
Yeah.
say, woe is me, and I can do drugs and I can do bad things to people because this is my past. And
Yeah.
people using it as a crutch, rather than a stepping stone to be a better person. So I
Yeah.
love the title of your show. It's phenomenal.
Yeah.
And I
Quite.
think being a victor is huge. It's been huge in my success, having that mentality. So
Absolutely. It is. And I think, yeah, it's a very powerful title, exactly like your podcast, Speak Loud, right?
yeah,
And you're also writing a book right now. Is it written yet?
it is written. I'm in the editing process, I guess. So I've had this book. I started writing it when I was 18. So 20 plus years ago. And actually, I was giving a public speech, and a guy came and approached me. His name's Dan Clark. I don't know if you guys are familiar with him over there in the UK,
No.
but he writes in a lot of the Chicken Soup for the Soul books.
Okay.
And he said, hey, you need to write a book about your life. Like, your life is really intriguing. And I'm like, me? My life? No, I don't want to write a book. So but I kind of kicked it around for a little bit in my head and decided, okay, I'll put some stuff down on paper. And it's just been this work in progress for 20 plus years. And I think the biggest thing is part of what I went through as a child is I now have I'm very OCD. because I grew up in so much chaos, and I grew up in so
Yeah.
much, I bounced around. I went to 23 different elementary schools when I was a child, some of which
Wow.
more than once. And
Okay.
so now, like, everything in my life, like you can even see in the picture, I'm just very like prim and proper, and every hair has to be in place, and that can be good or bad.
Yeah.
You know, perfectionism is not the best, but what I was getting at is that because I'm that way, it's kind of hindered me into getting this book out, because I'm so worried about, does it sound exactly like me, and did I hit every point, and yeah, so
Perfectionist.
finally, being perfectionist. And so I finally said, okay, I need to hire an editor so I can stop, analysis paralysis with this thing.
Yeah.
And she's kind of kicked me in the butt a bit. And we meet once a week. And so we just got done last week with about the halfway point. So the book should be released by the end of the year. It's called The Throwaway Girl.
Oh, that's amazing. And I guess that title reflects a lot about probably your life and how you were feeling.
Yes, definitely so. I chose that term because foster kids are known as throwaway kids. Their parents didn't want them. It's kind of a term that's used for foster kids. And so not only that, when I was kicked out of my home when I was 13, I was basically living out of a garbage bag. And so it just kind of tied into my whole journey into becoming emancipated and starting my life over. So it's a very powerful title, but I want people to know it's not a depressing book.
Yeah.
It's a memoir, but it's about, I mentioned to you kind of before we started that I got to run the torch in the 2002 Winter Olympics here in the States.
Yeah.
And so the book is kind of about lighting your flame within and finding the light in darkness. It takes you through the journey, but shows you kind of how you too can overcome, like I did. So.
Yeah, for sure. And so your journey started from, was it the age of 13 when you were kicked out? So was that because your parents were abusive?
Yeah, so by the age of 18, I had suffered all forms of abuse. But my stepfather at the time had been sexually abusing me. And my mother, who had never really taken any stock in my life, didn't really care what I was up to or that I was doing well or bad or anything in school, approached me one morning when I was getting ready. I was in the 8th grade, and she questioned the relationship between myself and my stepfather because it had taken him a while to wake me up, quote unquote.
Right.
That was when he would, do the things he would do mainly. And so, I thought she's never really taken any stock in my life, like I mentioned, and for her to be so pressing about the issue, I thought, well, maybe if I do tell her, she'll protect me. And so I kind of let it all out and let her know the molestation that was going on. And I think the biggest reason why I questioned even saying anything is because my stepfather would constantly threaten my life. He said, if you say anything to anybody, I'll kill you.
Oh,
and he was, tall and intimidating and used to be in the military and had very violent behavior with my mother at times. And so I thought he legitimately would kill me. I believed his words. And so I thought, well, again, because she pressed so much, asking what was going on, maybe she'll protect me, and told her. He came home, and we had this whole family meeting, and long story short, what happened was he denied everything, said that I was lying, and gave my mother a choice. He said, you've got to choose between your daughter or me. And my mother did not even hesitate what felt like 3 seconds, and turned to me and said, you have until tomorrow to get the bleep out of my house. And so that's kind of what began my journey into becoming emancipated. And she had a yard sale and sold all my stuff in front of me the next day.
At the age of 13?
Yeah, so I'm sitting here, I come home from school, and my mom's hosting this yard sale, and it's all my clothes, my toys, my bike. I loved biking, I still do to this day. So like everything just being sold. And I felt so worthless, like I was worth more to her, or a bike or a piece of clothing was worth more to her than I was as her child, for her to sell at the yard sale. And so, again, a reason why I felt thrown away and very discarded. And it's kind of interesting because I'm the oldest. And I was 6 before the next child came along. So we spent a lot of time together, when I was younger. And pre-drugs, she's a drug addict now, but yeah, it was just a really devastating time for me. So.
Well, also, your sister's a drug addict.
No, my sister's not a drug addict.
Oh.
So I have two brothers. You can see my cat Sasha.
Yeah.
She'll be part of the show. I have two brothers and one sister. My mom did drugs when she was pregnant with my two brothers, so they both have mental disabilities.
Okay.
But yeah, my sister, she doesn't do drugs. She was in foster care, actually. She was molested by her dad. It was her dad that molested me. Right. So had my mom have stopped it with me, it would have had to occur with her because she's 9 years younger than me. So she was placed in foster care. I didn't really know her because I was so much older. I had moved out. Yeah. And it was kind of a happenstance thing. I was at lunch with my cousin on my dad's side. So my sister and my dad have no relation. And she said, "Oh, your sister Tristina," which Tristina is a very uncommon name. Okay. And so I was like, "Wait, what? Did you say Tristina with a T?" And she's like, "Yeah." She goes, "Oh, she's a girl in one of my classes." And I was like, "Give her my phone number and tell her to call me. I think that might be my sister." Oh, goodness. So she calls me, and sure enough, it's my sister. And she had been placed into foster care, living about 40 minutes away. And so started to strike up a relationship with her and said, "I left. Your dad did this to me." And shortly thereafter, a friend of hers reported that she was being abused. My sister was being abused because she didn't feel safe to say it on her own. Yeah. They investigated it, hence why she ended up in foster care. And I ended up taking custody of her and raising her after that point.
Oh, wow. God, so how old were you then?
I was in my early 20s. Wow. But I was doing well for myself financially. I had a 2-bedroom, 2-bath apartment, and it was just me, so there was plenty of space for her. Oh, wow. So, that is amazing. And what is it? So how did you transform your life around? I don't know. People ask me that all the time. I think the biggest thing is I made myself a promise at 15 years old. That's when I was legally emancipated. It was a 2-year process. Okay. And I made myself a promise that I was just going to live my life to be everything that my parents were not. I didn't want to be a high school dropout like them. I didn't want to be hooked on drugs like my mom. I didn't want to be a teenager pregnant like them. And so I kind of just took the opposite approach. Okay. And that really was, I never have broken that promise to myself. I've still lived up to that to this day. And other than that, I just think, not to be, woo-woo on your show, but I'm into some pretty woo-woo things now. Yeah. And I think that we all come here with a soul contract. Yeah. And I think my soul contract is that I was supposed to go through the abuse I did to be a catalyst for others. Like I already agreed to it before I ever came to my mom and dad. So that's kind of my belief system. It was literally that one decision which changed your life. Yeah, exactly. And so I'm not going to say it's rainbows and roses. It's a work in progress. There's days that are better than others. I'm still single, ready to mingle for all those listeners out there. I'm accepting applications. But I'm very particular about the relationships I get into. And I'm still going through somatic healing, which is a very Eastern modality. Talk therapy hasn't really worked for me as well. I've done a ton of it, but it's not something that's worked. No. And so still at 39, I'm still doing counseling in a different way. Wow. Or healing in a different way. Through podcasting, right? That's healing. Exactly. Yeah. And it's interesting what you said about the talking therapy, because I had a similar situation where it just wasn't enough for me. I needed more deeper inner healing. And the somatic healing, obviously, the healings all have different names. So talk about somatic healing and what that is. So somatic healing is more of an energy work. I had a gentleman on my show that was a somatic healer, and I kept hearing through various interviews with people about this somatic healing, and I didn't really know what it was. Yeah. I can't remember how him and I had gotten connected, but anyhow, he said, "Before I come on your show, I'd like to do a couple sessions with you so we can talk about how it affected you before you interview me." Brilliant. And I was like, "Oh, that's cool. That's a new approach. I'm up for it." And so I took him on, and I just, the best way I can describe it is he's like an energetic plumber. Like we all have these pipes inside of us that get clogged with gook
Yeah.
from years and years of shit.
Yeah.
And, you know, that we carry with us. And
Yeah.
so he just kind of focuses in on your chakras and your chi and kind of just gets it all where it should be.
Nice.
Sometimes that day I'm just a ball of crying mess.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah.
And then sometimes like I'll just have really weird, bizarre dreams afterwards, but it's just kind of like awakening things that have been inside of me for so long that I just kind of a black, if you will, like a black, dark, just imagine sludge.
Yeah. Yeah.
A sludgeful energy that stays with you, you know, when you've been through so much trauma.
It is.
We tend to be trash compactors and compact and compact and compact down.
Yeah.
And we carry it with us for 10, 20, 30, 40 years, maybe our whole lives.
Yeah.
And that's where unhappiness comes from. That's where cancer can develop. You know, there's so many things that we need to clear that energy for to live our best lives.
We do, yeah. And because your OCD, your perfectionism, do you think that's a result of the trauma?
Definitely. Like I say, I grew up in such a chaotic environment, specifically with my mother. Like right before I was emancipated, the house was not always the best. It wasn't always very clean. Like we'd use moldy towels to dry off and things like that. And I think it's my way of having control. You know, it's a control thing for me. That might also be why I'm still single. That's hard to live with. I don't know. So yeah, I just like to live in a very clean environment, and it makes me feel good. I don't know. And I always pride myself in doing what I say I'm gonna do. I think because I lived a life where I didn't get that, you know. My mom never stuck by her promises, or we were again bounced around from environment to environment. And so yeah, it's just my way of I guess control can be a bad thing or a good thing, but so far it's been okay.
Yeah, no, that's good. So do you feel that with the OCD and the perfectionism, would that be classed as like an addiction?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's called obsessive compulsive disorder, right? I actually call it CDO because even the letters have to be in order. That's how perfectionist I am. But yeah, it's a disorder for sure. And it has, you know, when my sister lived with me, sometimes we would get into some arguments because I don't want dishes in the sink.
Yeah.
You know? That's why I'm kind of being facetious when I say that's why I'm still single, but I really do think I'm hard to live with because I don't like a mess. I don't have kids for that reason because, like, I know kids, they can't help it. They tend to be a little messy.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's an obsession, but there could be worse things to be addicted to, right?
Exactly. Yeah, because the amount of survivors and trauma survivors who get addicted to you know, exercise, obviously drugs and alcohol are the worst types of addictions, but being addicted to good things like work and, you know, just your passions, then I think win-win, right?
Yeah, right. I mean, the other thing I'm addicted to is cycling.
Oh, okay.
So I'm like, but that's healthy, right?
That's a great addiction.
Climb a mountain. Yeah. So there could be worse things I could be addicted to.
Exactly. And hey, you know, the way I'm seeing it, you have high standards and, you know, maybe you haven't found a man to match your standards. So be it, right? And I think you know, the community, society, the world, it kind of puts us into this box where we have to get married, have children, have a big house. No, we don't. We can be and do whatever and whoever we want to be. It's like, yeah, you know, if you want to be single and you're happy, then be single. And right.
That's really hard here because in Utah, the culture of Mormonism is prevalent, and so if you're not married by like 21, there's something wrong with you. I hate to say that, you know, but being 39 and not married and never been married is definitely an anomaly. You know, people are like, okay, are you a serial killer? Like, what's going on?
Like, no, I'm a podcaster.
I'm like, no, I'm a strong woman. I don't need anybody.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I know, right? And it's like my motto is now, if you can't find a partner who's going to support your growth, then you're better off alone anyway.
Yeah.
Because there's so much insecurities out there. I know with myself, a trauma survivor, I've been highly insecure throughout my life. How have you found growing up in terms of your self-esteem, loving yourself?
Yeah, definitely still a work in progress. I'd say the biggest thing that I still have to overcome now is I second guess myself all the time. Like I'll come home from a dinner and like replay the conversation in my head, like, why did I say that? Or do they think I'm
Oh,
stupid for saying that? Or, it's just an insecurity of being like feeling accepted, maybe is a good word for it.
yeah.
But yeah, it's definitely still something I work through. And I think too, my love language is I'm so thoughtful. I like to do acts of kindness and words of affirmation.
Yeah.
And so that's my love language. I like to receive in return. And maybe somebody doesn't show their love in that way.
Yeah.
Maybe they show their love by buying gifts or, affection. And mine's more the words and the acts, the thoughtful things. And so, yeah, it's just finding somebody to match that, and it's hard because I've been molested by various men. And so, quite honestly, I'm not just attracted to that gender because of what's happened to me.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, that's been something I've really been coming into in the last couple of years with my sexuality is just kind of realizing that it's okay to express in a different way, that I don't necessarily only, want to be in that category.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's whoever you feel secure with, because that's exactly what happened to me. That was my story from the age of 18. I just went to the opposite sex, and for like about a whole decade, I wasn't interested in men whatsoever. And I knew for me, it was more of a protection thing because I didn't feel that from the men because of what had happened to me. And I felt that I felt secure with a woman.
Yeah, I 100% agree with what you're saying. Yeah, it's something to overcome, and so, I mean, all the relationships I've been in have been with men, but it's something, like I say, in the last year or two, I've just been kind of seeing like, oh, maybe this is something I've suppressed for a while.
Something to explore.
Yeah,
that's what life's about, exploring, going out there and just finding what makes you happy, right? Yeah. And so what are you going to be doing from now on forth? Obviously you've got your podcasting, you've got your book. Where will we see you in the next 5 to 10 years, let's say?
Well, I've also got a nonprofit that I started in high school for the abused. It's called S.H.A.R.E. Stands for Sharing Hope for the Abused Through Resilience and Empowerment.
Nice.
So I've recently gotten a great board of directors that really support my vision.
Oh, wow.
I kind of have people come and go and things like that. And so now that I've got a really good core group of people to support the vision, my perfect world is I just do that all day.
Oh, yeah. Oh, wow. Yeah.
That would be really amazing. Just do the podcast, which helps trauma victims. In addition to the book, which will also help trauma victims, and then the nonprofit. So it's really supporting my purpose for being here.
It is.
But in the meantime, I'm a realtor by day, so I'll just keep selling some houses. But yeah, so my 5 to 10 year plan is I'd like to be speaking more specifically to help people who've been through trauma. I love speaking with kids. And then in addition to that, maybe another book is out, is in me that I could put out. And just really making S.H.A.R.E. a global effort rather than just a statewide effort.
I love that. Yeah, absolutely. I can see you really doing that. I can just sense your passion in just helping people. And, my listeners can obviously go onto your podcast show and they will see that, you were born to serve, right?
Yeah, I really do feel that's my mission. I didn't understand it when I was going through it, during the suicidal times and anorexia. And, like I say, it hasn't been rainbows and roses. 13 to 15 was a really hard time, and I'm lucky to be on the planet. But now I know why it all happened.
But that's such a young age to be going through those dark thoughts.
Right.
God bless. Yeah. And I mean, what would you say was your most kind of life transforming moment? Was there anybody who kind of guided you? Was there anybody who came into your life to support you?
There was a moment specifically. I was living with my dad. I was 13 years old, and I had this morning when I woke up and I said to myself, today's going to be the day. Today's going to be the day I end my life. And I just didn't want to be here anymore. I thought, if the woman who gave me life doesn't want me, what's the purpose? All of those thoughts.
Yeah.
And then it was kind of a devil and angel. I had the devil saying, yeah, do it. You're not worthy. You shouldn't be here. And then I had the angel saying, but you're letting this defeat you. If you kill yourself, who wins? All of these like good, bad. And I said to myself, yeah, this is time to seek help, because I'm going down the wrong path and I don't want to end my life. There's so much more. And so I picked up the phone and called one of my best girlfriends at the time and said, hey, here's what I'm going through. Here's what I'm thinking. And she goes, please tell me that when I call you back, you will answer the phone. And I'm like, okay, why? She's like, just promise me will. So we hung up the phone, and what I didn't know is she went and talked to her parents. Okay. And said, hey, here's what's going on. Maybe Tiffany needs to come live with us for a little while. And her parents talked to my dad, and my dad was like, he realized he wasn't doing the best that he could. I was a latchkey kid. Yeah. So I'd wake up and he'd be gone at work, come home and he'd still be gone. So I spent a lot of time alone, which is a big part of why I had so much suicide in my head and anorexia and stuff like that. Yeah. And that was my saving grace. That family saved my life and gave me a place to land in a family environment where we had chores and we did our homework at the kitchen table and had dinner together. Wow. While I was doing my journey of emancipation. So they are the reason I'm here. Big reason I'm here.
It is. And it normally is, from a lot of the survival stories that I've heard, it normally is a community of people who has saved someone, or a family, or just that one person who just believed in the survivor, and it gave that person that strength. And I believe that these amazing people they're God, right? And they were sent from the universe to come and save us.
It's never a solo effort, I'll tell you that. It's never a solo effort. It's not. Hence why what you're doing with your podcast, or I am, or any of these podcasts out there, or just people sharing their stories, sometimes that's all a person needs to hear to get to that victor status from victimhood, right? Yeah. To know that they're not alone. And so you're 100% right. It's not a solo project. Support is huge, and having a safe place to land, or an ear to listen. Another person that was really influential in my life was a teacher. I don't know if you guys have like home ec there.
Oh yeah, home economics. Yeah.
So we call it here. They've changed it, but I was in this club called FCCLA, Family Consumers. It's like Family Consumer Study Sciences or something. Okay. Family Career Community Leaders of America is what it stood for. Oh yeah. And she was a first-year teacher, so she was close to my age. She was like 23 maybe. So there wasn't a big age difference, and she was my advisor for this club. And I started opening up to her about my anorexia. My mom had told me so much growing up, how ugly I was, how fat I was, which I was 98 pounds. I was never fat. Yeah. And so I don't care who you are, if somebody that's a superior to you is constantly telling you these things, your brain is going to just soak it in. You can try not to let it, but it happens. It starts to get in the crevice, And so I opened up to her about that, and she gave me some books about healthy eating and kind of the nutrients your body needs and stuff like that. And then she had brought me a journal and said, maybe write some things down. And I just remember after school, she'd sit and just listen. I would just kind of vent to her and say, here's what I feel like. And sometimes I feel like it's not worth it. And And she kind of turned me on to the guidance counselor at school. And I think, you know, her being there for me, just listening, that's literally all she needed to do, made me feel heard, right? So I wasn't just like a nobody. I didn't feel like a number. I felt like a person. I felt like I was worthy to be here and listened to. And so those two things really made a huge impact in my life and were very pivotal.
Yeah, just somebody who believed in you and saw you as a person. And I know there's many of us who probably grow old and we still haven't had that person who believes in us. But then I also believe that a lot of that starts from within. It starts from us. And I'm a big believer about the fact that, you know, we should actually marry ourselves before we go off and marry anybody else.
So true.
Where's that? Where's the marriages with oneself? Like, why aren't we celebrating that? I just don't understand. It's
I mean, it starts with you, right? And I believe that. Like, I still have so much healing to do. How can I give myself to somebody else if I don't know, you know, if I'm not healed completely? I can't say completely because, you know, I'm sure there's always going to be things to heal. But until I'm at least to a point that it's like, okay, I'm in a good spot, so now I can give of myself. Right.
Because you end up having to compromise, right? And imagine compromising when you're not even compromised yourself. Like, you'll be giving away your soul to somebody. And it just sounds it sounds a lot, you know, for me, probably for you as well. I feel like we're in the same kind of you know, phase of our lives, journeys of our lives, where, you know, we're just trying to find that the peak of, you know, of who we really are, our true essence, our true being. But I feel like, you know, especially from listening to your story, you've come such a long way, and you should be so proud of yourself.
Well, thank you. I am proud of myself. Sometimes I have to remind myself, but I am proud.
Wow. And so I just wanted to ask, what would you recommend to my listeners for those who may currently be in a very, you know, trauma state, somebody who may currently be in a very domestically abusive relationship, or someone who's just come out of a domestically abusive relationship and they're sitting there in silence, not knowing what to do?
I mean, I would say the biggest thing is there's resources out there. I don't think people realize the resources that are out there, and reaching out to somebody for support, whether that's a dear friend, it could be a neighbor, it could be a stranger on the street. Like, tell somebody, because until you tell somebody, nothing can be done. You know, I don't know how things are prosecuted where you're at, but I could see a child be abused, but if the child doesn't admit to it themselves out of their own mouth, especially if it's like not something that you see vaginal lacerations or bruises or the physical evidence of it. So we're talking more mental and emotional, I guess. It's really hard to prosecute. And so the biggest thing is to speak loud, as my podcast is called. Speak loud, speak out, say something to somebody. So that you don't become a statistic for the worst. And I know it's scary. You know, I've worked with so many women in relationships that they're scared to leave because they feel they can't live without a man. Or they feel that they can't live on their own, or they've been threatened so much that they think, yes, this man really will kill me. I mean, it's possible, right? I was in that position. And so just talking to somebody, because there are ways to protect yourself. There are places for you to go that have protection. And maybe until you feel strong enough to say something, a big part of my journey was journaling. So like I had 20 plus journals by the time I was a teenager. And, you know, just getting it out of the head and onto the paper, where the paper's never going to judge you, right? The paper's never going to say, oh, you're wrong, you shouldn't feel this way. You know, get it out, get it on paper, hide the journal if you need to, so that your significant other that might be abusing you doesn't see it. Or, you know, just getting it out is huge. And then finding that support system to start to move on through the ranks of getting out completely.
yeah. No, I think that's a fantastic piece of advice, because again, I've been learning a lot about belongingness, and just how a lot of us who live in isolation, what we need is just, you know, to belong to something, whether that's in your, like you said, your journaling or your creativeness. You know, a lot of the best artists come from loneliness, right? So
Yep.
there can be magic in this. Like, you know, people don't just have to suffer. You can actually develop this into something positive, where you're going to be out there inspiring others, exactly like myself and Tiffany are doing. So yeah.
Yeah, having an outlet's important for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Whether that's singing, dancing, just, yeah, find your passion. Just, you know, tune in and see what you need to get that fire in your belly
Yeah.
to be you. Yeah. So just wanted to ask as well, before we do finalize this talk, what is your biggest regret until date?
Ooh, my biggest regret. That's a good one.
Put you on the spot.
Okay. Actually, I think I know what my biggest regret is, and it's just come about. So I've had daddy issues, I guess you could say, my whole life. My biological father was very physically abusive towards me, and then once my parents divorced at 7, he's been very, I don't want to say mentally and emotionally abusive, but in a way, because I've allowed him to do that.
Right.
So here I am turning 39 tomorrow, and I've spent 39 years waiting for that man to tell me he's proud of me.
Wow.
And I'm talking about my biological dad.
Okay.
And I took him to Hawaii in May for his birthday. And this is a trip that I had purchased 2 years ago, and then COVID happened and all this stuff kept getting pushed.
Yeah.
And he's a big history buff, and he'd always wanted to see Pearl Harbor. So I took him to Honolulu to see Pearl Harbor with his own eyes, and to see the ocean, and to, you know, Hawaii's a great destination. And so
yeah.
in my head, I'm going somewhere with this, I promise. In my head, I built up this like grandiose, like he's going to see Pearl Harbor and he's going to be overcome with emotion. And when he sees this ocean and experiences this trip, he's just going to be like, oh my gosh, thank you so much. And I thought maybe this time he'll be proud of me. You know, I bought him a car for Christmas, paid cash. He had no emotion about it. I ran the torch. He had no emotion about it. I took him to see the ocean, no emotion about it. Wow. So I finally had this realization. I call it a Tiffany epiphany. That there's nothing I'm ever going to do that's going to make him happy. And I kind of had this moment, and this was just 2 months ago, 2.5 months ago, that I need to stop living my life for him to say he's proud of me, for him to tell me he loves me. And so I really regret all of those years of doting on him and letting him control so much of my happiness. You know, and he probably doesn't even know he has that effect on me, but I'm just, you know, I kind of just want that in that parental figure with him. And so my regret is that I've let so many years go by, that I have let him have such a hold on me in that capacity. And if he's going to tell me he's proud of me one day, even if it's on his deathbed, then he will. And if he doesn't, he doesn't. But I can't live my life waiting for it anymore.
No. And I think the moral of the story there is, you just have to carry on living your life and not wait for the unexpected. And it's one of Tony Robbins' quotes where he says, turn your expectations to appreciation and see the world change.
Right. Yep. It's been pretty freeing. It's been hard, but it's been really freeing. You know, I'll see him tomorrow. Okay. We always do a family dinner for my birthday, and I used to always get a lot of anxiety to be around him, and like I say, let him control my emotions. And so now it's like, no, I'm in control of that.
No more.
Why am I waiting for him to say those things? How about he should come to me and say, I'm sorry for what I did to you as a kid. I'm sorry for hitting you and, you know, doing all these, you know, I just kind of, I don't know how to explain it. Like the veil just kind of opened up for me in a sense of, stop, you're wasting your time.
It's exactly like you said when you made your decision, you know, that's it, no more.
Yeah.
And it is.
It's been a big regret that I've wasted so much time and tears and probably a few wrinkles on my face from it, but
I can't see any wrinkles. You've got a very good filter.
well, thank you. But yeah, I regret that. I regret him having that hold on me. So
okay, so hopefully now, you can move on from that and live a more prosperous life for you and not wait around, because I always find as well, even though parents and grandparents, they might feel something towards us, it's difficult for them to express it as well, especially when they haven't been around. Because what age was he when he left?
So he never left. It was, and he's really done, when my mom kicked me out, he was the one I ran to his house, and he wasn't like able to really care for me. Honestly, I think my dad is autistic and he's never been diagnosed because he's socially just not there. But he's a genius in a lot of categories, like history. He can tell you any date, anything. History,
okay.
art, and music, he's very good at.
Interesting.
But socially, he's not there. And so I've also kind of had a little bit of a moment of, well, maybe he's just never been diagnosed and he doesn't know how to express himself.
This is it, yeah.
Maybe that's the case, and I just need to stop worrying about it.
Yeah, so. Absolutely, yeah. And it's that saying where empathy always wins. You now understand what it could be. You're showing empathy, and it kind of helps you, doesn't it, to get through trying to control how you feel people should be with you. It's not up to us, is it? It's up to them. We can only control how we are with ourselves.
Right.
And so my next question is, what is your favorite quote?
Favorite quote, I'm sure everybody listening has heard it before: be the change you wish to see in this world. That's actually how I end my podcast every episode. And the reason it's my favorite quote is because we all have it within us to be the change.
We do.
My change is I'm going to end abuse one person at a time. Is it going to end in my lifetime? Based on the statistics, no. But at least I know I'm doing something every day to be the change I wish to see in this world. Yeah. As the quote says, people are like, oh, I hate global warming, or I hate that there's plastic in the oceans, or I hate homelessness, or so do something about it. Exactly. Well, I can't. I'm one person. I don't have money for that. How am I ever going to make a change or an effect?
Limiting beliefs.
And as we know, it's like they say, when a pebble drops in the water, right? The ripple effects. Yeah. So, I've started a lasting change through the podcast, through the nonprofit. All of that lives beyond me. Just like what you're doing and sharing your message, whatever it is, if you don't like something, change it, because every day is an opportunity to turn it all around.
Wow, I love that. Thank you. And just final question is, what do you think is the biggest thing which is holding us back?
Ourselves.
Wow.
Our subconscious, which goes into the somatic healing. So somatic healing, I talked about it being energy work, but it really works your subconscious. So your subconscious is formed when you're a child, right? It's things that happen to you that you now do, like my OCD, although I'm aware of it, it stems from that, right? And so if we can just kind of learn to retrain the brain waves of our subconscious to work in our benefit rather than our detriment, that can really make a lasting change and effect.
Oh, I love that. Yeah, it is. And I think a lot of us do overlook, the subconscious and conscious parts of the brains. And this is why I love techniques like hypnotherapy so much. Because you really go into that. And there's so many like these different Hertz frequency meditations as well, again, which tap into your subconscious and unconscious part of the brain, and just going to sleep with a lot of these 8-hour kind of meditations on the background. It's so healing, right?
I actually do that every night. So last night I listened to one that was manifesting abundance.
Nice.
So like before I go to bed, if I'm dealing with a certain problem in my life or there's something I need help with, and sometimes I'll just listen to like a Reiki one for 8 hours. You just go to YouTube and
That's
type
brilliant.
in, okay, I need to work on a relationship. So listen to one for relationships. And as you mentioned, they're different megahertz. So you're sleeping anyways. You might have some weird dreams. I will tell you that.
Yeah.
And I've practiced like astral travel and lucid dreaming.
Oh, wow.
And it's very woo-woo kind of out there. But
yeah,
I would encourage your listeners to try that. Just going to YouTube and kind of looking through what's available. You know, I need to work on my abundance, or I need to work on my relationships, or I need to work on law of attraction, or whatever.
Yeah.
And there's so many videos out there for free. Just turn one on and just let it play while you're sleeping. It's reprogramming. It works. I'm telling you.
That's well tried and tested. Look at you.
Yes, it works.
A woman who has tackled adversities and become this empowering 𝒠·HA·R·E that we see today. So where can my listeners find this 𝒠·HA·R·E?
Well, if you want to listen to the podcast, it's available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, pretty much anywhere you can download a podcast. So it's called Speak Loud Podcast, or you can just go to speakloudpodcast.com. If you're interested in following me on any social media accounts, you can find me at Speak Loud Podcast. That's my podcast only Instagram. And then I also have my personal page, which is at Lady Airbnb, because I do real estate, Airbnbs and realtor stuff. Yeah. And then on Facebook, there's quite a few Tiffany Barneses out there. So you'd have to type in Tiffany Barnes Utah, and I should come up.
Excellent. Utah. I love that. She's a Utah Tiffany Barnes. Remember that, listeners. Yes.
Don't get me confused with all the others out there. So.
Exactly. Oh, wow. Thank you so much for your time today. It's been an absolute honor kind of having you on, and for you to share such an intimate and a very inspiring story with us. So I really thank you for sharing this and opening up. You've been amazing.
Thank you. I appreciate you having this platform and for the work that you're doing. Seriously, keep it up. Those of you listening, keep listening to what she's putting out there. Victim to Victor. It's amazing. Just keep on shining your light, Mama. You're amazing.
We'll keep shining, sister. So on that note, we will end today's show, and I really look forward to seeing you all back again on the next show. And once again, thank you so much, Tiffany, for coming on. And yeah, let's carry on becoming victors, right, listeners? Because what else do we have? Let's be the 𝒠·HA·R·Es that we want to see in the world. Bye, everybody. Bye.